Let's cut through the noise and address the single most important development in the history of the Iraqi dinar investment, a development so significant it fundamentally rewrites the rules of the game for every single person holding this currency. For decades, the journey has been defined by a cycle of tantalizing rumors and agonizing delays, a landscape where hope was often the primary currency. But what I'm about to break down for you today is not a rumor, it's not guru intel, and it's certainly not speculation. This is about a concrete, procedural shift happening in the back offices of global financial institutions, a silent tsunami building momentum far from the public eye. I'm talking about the confirmed, verified locking in of internal exchange rates for the Iraqi dinar by a consortium of international banks. This is the financial equivalent of a countdown clock being initiated. The gears of the global monetary system are now actively engaging with the dinar at a predetermined, elevated value. Think about what that means for a second. A bank, a conservative, risk-averse entity governed by trillion-dollar compliance departments, does not just decide one day to program a new, highly favorable rate for a supposedly exotic or volatile currency on a whim. This action is the culmination of years of behind-the-scenes work, and it signals one thing with crystal clarity: the revaluation is no longer a matter of if, but a matter of when, and that when is now measured in a very short time frame. These internal bank rates, often referred to as Tier 1 settlement rates or proprietary asset valuation rates, are the master key. They are the direct result of the final pieces of the geopolitical and economic puzzle falling into place. We are witnessing the conclusion of Iraq's journey out of Chapter 7 protections, their successful negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for a new exchange rate framework, and the monumental strides made in stabilizing their internal political structure. All of this bureaucratic progress is essential, but it's theoretical until the banks act. The locking in of a rate is the tangible, real-world manifestation of that progress. It's the system priming itself for action. This process is meticulously calculated. These banks aren't picking numbers out of a hat, they are running incredibly sophisticated algorithms that analyze Iraq's true economic worth. They are factoring in the nation's staggering oil reserves, which stand at over 145 billion barrels, making it the fifth largest in the world. They are calculating the value of other untapped mineral resources. They are assessing the nation's total money supply, the M2, which sits at approximately 130 trillion dinars, and comparing it to the colossal value of its hard assets. The math is inescapable and points to a value that justifies a strong, sovereign currency, moving it from its current artificial peg of 1310 dinars to the US dollar to a rate that reflects its genuine purchasing power parity. This locked-in rate is the bank's confidential prediction of that final, market-driven value. It is the number they have chosen to be prepared to transact at the very moment the public announcement is made. This is the ultimate insider move, a definitive signal that the financial infrastructure is now in a state of readiness. The doors are being prepared to open, and the banks are ensuring they are not caught off guard when the floodgates finally open. They are positioning themselves to handle the historic volume of exchange transactions smoothly and efficiently. For you, the investor, this is the most powerful confirmation possible. It means the entity you are going to be dealing with to liquidate your asset has already pre-approved its value. The debate is over. The waiting is entering its final, most critical phase. This is the calm before the storm, and understanding this shift from speculative hope to institutional preparation is the key to navigating the incredible opportunity that lies directly ahead. Now, to fully grasp the monumental nature of this shift, we have to dismantle the single biggest source of confusion and skepticism that has plagued the dinar community for years, the staggering disconnect between the current, artificially suppressed program rate and the powerful, economically justified value these banks are now locking in behind the scenes. The official rate of 1310 dinars to $1 is a relic, a financial ghost from a different era that no longer reflects the reality on the ground in Iraq. It's absolutely critical to understand that this number is not, and has never been, a reflection of the Iraqi nation's true intrinsic worth. This rate was an emergency stabilizer, an administrative tool implemented in a period of profound crisis following the 2003 invasion, designed to create a simple, predictable baseline for a shattered economy to begin the painful process of rebuilding. It was a necessary band-aid for a patient in critical condition, but the patient has now recovered, has gotten out of bed, and is training for a marathon, yet everyone is still staring at the band-aid and judging the patient's health by it. The true value of a national currency is ultimately a representation of the value of the nation itself, its assets, its productivity, and its economic potential. So let's talk about assets. Iraq is not a poor country, it is an asset-rich country that has been living under a poorly managed economy. Its proven oil reserves alone are a mind-boggling treasure trove of wealth, consistently ranked among the top 5 globally. At a conservative estimate of 145 billion barrels and with oil prices fluctuating around $70 to $80 per barrel, you are looking at a resource whose gross value eclipses $10 trillion. This is not speculative, this is geological fact. Then, layer on the vast, largely untapped reserves of natural gas, phosphate, sulfur, and other precious minerals. This immense natural wealth forms the bedrock, the absolute foundation, upon which the new value of the dinar will be built. Now, let's contrast this with the money supply. The total amount of Iraqi dinars in existence, known as the M2 money supply, is approximately 130 trillion dinars. When you hold a currency, you essentially hold a share of that nation's total economic pie. The value of your share is determined by the size of the pie divided by the number of slices. Iraq's economic pie, backed by those trillions in hard assets, is enormous, while the number of slices, the 130 trillion dinars, is relatively manageable. This is the core of the revaluation argument. For the dinar to accurately represent Iraq's share of the global economy, the math necessitates a drastic increase in its value. A rate that brings the dinar closer to a 1-to-1 or even a several-to-1 parity with the US dollar is not a fantasy, it is a mathematical correction that aligns the currency with the fundamental economic reality of the nation it represents. Look at the Kuwaiti dinar, the strongest currency in the world, sitting comfortably above $3. What does Kuwait have? Oil. What does Iraq have? Even more oil. The precedent exists within the same region, under the same economic model. The banks that are now locking in their internal rates have run these exact calculations. Their algorithms have crunched the numbers on asset backing, money supply, projected GDP growth, and purchasing power parity. They have concluded that the current 1310 peg is an absurdity that must and will be corrected. Their locked-in rate is their proprietary answer to this math problem. It is the value they have determined is fair, sustainable, and reflective of Iraq's true potential as a sovereign economic powerhouse. This action transforms the revaluation from a hopeful theory into an impending accounting reality. They are not waiting for the public announcement to figure out the value, they have already done the homework, and the answer is already programmed into their systems. This is the quiet, unemotional verdict of the global financial system, and it unequivocally states that the Iraqi dinar is grossly undervalued and poised for a historic correction that will realign it with the colossal wealth of the nation it represents. So the trillion-dollar question is no longer about the validity of the revaluation, but about your personal readiness for the single most important financial event of your lifetime. The locking of these internal bank rates is the final piece of the architectural blueprint falling into place. The foundation has been poured, the structure has been built, and now the interior is being furnished for the grand opening. What happens next is a meticulously choreographed sequence of events that will transition this from a behind-the-scenes financial maneuver into your tangible, life-changing reality. The trigger will be a simultaneous, coordinated public announcement from the Central Bank of Iraq and a formal recognition statement from the International Monetary Fund. This will not be a quiet news item. It will be a global financial earthquake, broadcast across every major news network and flashing across the screens of every trading desk on the planet. The moment that announcement hits the wires, the internal rates currently dormant within the banking software of these prepared institutions will instantaneously activate. This is the moment the digital switch is flipped. Your first and most critical mission in that moment is not to act in panic, but to act with precision. The initial hours will be a whirlwind of information and, inevitably, misinformation. Your anchor in this storm will be verified, primary sources. Do not trust a social media post, a forwarded email, or a frantic phone call from a well-meaning friend. Your confirmation must come from unimpeachable sources like Reuters, Bloomberg, or the official website of the Central Bank of Iraq itself. Once you have that official confirmation, your pre-established plan kicks into gear. This is where the real work you do now separates those who simply exchange their currency from those who build generational wealth from it. You will not be rushing to your local branch where a teller has never heard of the Iraqi dinar. You will be contacting the specific, pre-identified institutions that have a dedicated foreign currency desk and a documented history of handling exotic currencies. You call their premier client services line, you reference the new, internationally recognized currency code for the revalued dinar, and you calmly and confidently ask for their current buyback rate for the quantity you hold. It is vital to understand that the rate you see flashing on the financial news screens is a benchmark, an interbank rate. The rate you are offered will be the bank's buyback rate, which will be slightly lower to account for their operational spread and profit. This is standard, legitimate, and how all global currency exchange operates. Do not get caught up in chasing the absolute perfect number. Focus on securing a fair, transparent rate from a reputable, too-big-to-fail institution that can handle the size of your transaction without a hitch. This moment of exchange, of seeing the new value in your account, is the finish line of one race, but it is merely the starting line of the most important race of all, wealth preservation and legacy building. The sudden influx of capital will be staggering, and the financial vultures will circle immediately. Your very next call, before you make any large purchases or decisions, must be to a qualified, independent, and fiduciary financial advisor, a professional legally obligated to act in your best interest. You need a team to help you navigate the complex tax implications, to structure a diversified portfolio of assets that protects your principal while generating sustainable income, and to create an estate plan that ensures this wealth blesses your family for generations to come. This is the ultimate goal. This is the reason you held on through the years of doubt and uncertainty. The locked bank rates are the final, silent confirmation that your patience and foresight are about to be vindicated on a historic scale. The preparation is complete. The systems are primed. The future is now knocking. The only question that remains is, are you ready to answer? Do you have your bank list prepared? Have you vetted your financial advisor? Is your estate plan in order? Share your readiness plan in the comments below. Let's build a community of the prepared. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell, because when the official announcement happens, we will be here with immediate, step-by-step guidance to navigate you through the process. This is it. The final chapter of the wait is over. The first chapter of your new legacy begins now.